Hey everybody, thanks for joining me. My name is Jennifer Hilt and I'm the author of the Trope Thesaurus series. This is part of my thank you to Kickstarter backers, and I'm going to be talking about the ticking time bomb trope in fantasy and science fiction. Just a quick reminder who I am. How could you forget? Because I'm always telling you guys. And my 4-book series. Okay, so this is what we're going to be talking about. Like I said in the earlier warrior video, when I talk about these various tropes, I want us to know what it is, why do we care about it, and how can we use it. And I want you to be thinking about these things anytime you guys are reading something or watching something or thinking about a story, because it really helps us become better observers and helps us put together our own stories more by seeing, oh yeah, I see how they did that. It takes kind of the mystery out of it. Also, I want to say that it doesn't, but sometimes people are like, oh, but I don't want to be ruined. I don't want to have the story ruined by knowing how it works. And I get that. And so which is why I recommend reading/viewing things more than once. So the first time I watch anything is just for the enjoyment aspect of it. What can help me escape and how do I get into that world? And then afterward, I find myself thinking about these questions that I mentioned, and I go back and I'll read or watch again, one or multiple times, depending on what my brain's needing. But that's kind of how I hope you guys approach it too. And it's really just about becoming a better observer of how stories put together. So ticking time bomb trope, what is it? Well, what we know is that it's basically anything that gives us a deadline. And there's, if we think about kind of human nature, I don't know about you guys, but I only ever get anything done if I have a deadline. If I had all the time in the world to do all my various projects, I wouldn't get anything done because I would just kind of keep procrastinating and working and putting it off and thinking I can make it better and blah, blah, blah. And what that does is dispel tension. And in stories, we don't want to dispel any tension. In fact, what we want to do is create as much tension as possible. And that's what a ticking time bomb trope does. It creates a deadline. It creates an immediacy. It creates a reason why things need to happen now. Multiple things are going to go on at once. And that's going to create story tension and really plot that's going to push your characters to make all kinds of decisions they don't want to have to make. But that's what really gives us story. So the first example, I hope that you guys check this out. I know it's an older movie, but easily viewable on our streaming services, Children of Men. And it's really more of a story of apocalyptic fiction, I'm thinking, where in a future dystopian, there it is, I lost the word, dystopian fiction, but I'm throwing it in the sci-fi category because I think it's fantastic, and I want everybody to watch it. It's based on a book by P.D. James. She's a famous British mystery author, so this was an interesting departure for her. But what I think is so cool about this movie, which stars Clive Owen, is that this movie revolves around some tropes that you would not expect that are not typical in any kind of thriller. Surprise pregnancy, secret baby, and secret heir. And I just love that that P.D. James created this story because it is so original, but on these well-known tropes. So basically, what the story is about is that well, I was going to go back to show you guys, but anyway, you know, Children of Men. But just a quick synopsis is it's a world where where humans have lost the ability to reproduce. So everybody on Earth is living knowing that there's no other future humans coming. There's all kinds of environmental problems, political problems. Everything is a mess. And this is set in the UK. What happens is a disgruntled, tortured, traumatic warrior, the Clive Owen character, is tasked by his ex-wife, who's a rebel, to basically ferry this young woman from London to a ship to escape the UK. And that journey quest is fraught with all kinds of awful things that are going to be happening to them. But the surprise that comes into it is she's not just any young woman. What we learn about her is that she is actually pregnant. So she is the only human on the whole entire earth at this time who has the ability to reproduce, and everybody wants her for their political purposes. So it was just I just think that's such a great twist on something that you often see relegated to just romance to be used in the thriller genre. So we have the surprise pregnancy, secret baby, secret heir, all kind of wrapped up and used in that way. So that was just kind of a great example of Ticking Time Bomb, because not only does he have to deliver this woman to her checkpoint by a certain time, because the boat will only be there, of course, for a narrow window, and once it leaves, it leaves. There's no other way to call it back, and there's not a way to communicate with it, with the boat. So he has to do that, of course, with a pregnant woman who, not surprisingly, will give birth along the way. And so you just have the whole ticking time bomb element of that. So she uses it in several ways, and I just really love it, and I hope you guys check it out. And it just encourages you to think about tropes in new ways with the ticking time bomb. Okay, this next one I'm going to talk about is probably one that everybody's heard of, especially if you're a sci-fi fan. The Expanse, based on a super popular book series, and now turned into this, like, I think 5 seasons on Amazon. And this is this is an example of space opera, which I'll talk about. I think I use that as an example in the book. But what is really important with a space opera, or anything that has any length of time with lots of characters, is this is going to have multiple ticking time bombs. We need to have all kinds of deadlines to meet in order to force our characters to interact and make choices. And the most common ticking time bomb in the Expanse that I've seen is the use of the MacGuffin trope. And that's used in multiple ways. It's used about a person. There's a character, Julie Mao, that she's a detective is trying to find her. It's used as an object called the protomolecule, which is a substance that nobody is exactly sure of what it is, but it seems to have tremendous power. So they're trying to find out where it came from, what it does, how to harness it. And the third example of the MacGuffin being used in the story as a ticking time bomb is this whole idea of the ring, which appears, and that's a little later in the series. But I think it's really great examples of just when we think, okay, we've solved one mystery, we've locked down what was going to happen, we've located Julie Mao. There's complications with that, but okay, that's the end of that ticking time bomb. But that ticking time bomb's conclusion then triggers another ticking time bomb of the protomolecule. So we just see how really the ticking time bombs are stacked, so that there's never any room for characters to, like, sit down, have a break, have a rest, have something to eat, get some sleep, interact with each other. Everything is always, everybody's like tired. They're running on their lowest energy levels, and everything is very cut close to the bone. And that really helps us with the ticking time bomb trope, that sense of, it's an immediate problem that we need to fix. So I just think if you haven't watched The Expanse, I highly recommend it. The first season is probably my favorite, though I love the second too. But it's just really great examples of how the ticking time bomb is used. There's more examples even than this, but how it's used very at different layers in the story to keep all the characters interacting and keep us engaged. So one of the ways that the ticking time bomb works when we're using it in, like, big scenes and series and over arcs, and it's not just a simple get the girl to the coast to meet the ship that we saw in Children of Men, is if we can think about ticking time bombs, that they're always based on a scarcity, right? And these are just some examples: not enough air, not enough water, not enough fuel, not enough medicine, weapons, information, magic, any of those things. Anything that can be limited can create a ticking time bomb. So it's a good way to think of it as about scarcity for the plot. If you feel like things are kind of losing steam and you want to inject more tension in there, think about what important resources do you have that can be restricted to create more tension on the characters. I'm going to talk about Scott Pilgrim again, which I love, and I use in lots of different ways because there's so much great stuff going on in here. But in this movie, ticking time bombs in this movie are the relationships. And we know that Scott has his relationship with knives, and his relationship with Ramona, and his relationship with when he's battling her exes. So all of those have ticking time bombs in them. The ones with the two women are a little longer. The ones with the exes are very scene based, but it's another way of using ticking time bombs is thinking of them as that they can be also relationships. And some examples of how that happens in this movie is of the ticking time bombs is his roommate, Wallace, who I just love, tells him he needs to move out. Okay, so he's got to come up with a new situation. When he orders something from Amazon because he knows that Ramona is a delivery person and he's waiting for her to deliver it, and they show him sitting by the door. Or the ticking time bomb of the Battle of the Bands as he's preparing for that. These are all in addition to the ones that we talked about that are kind of the bigger ones of his relationships with Knives and Ramona and with the 7 evil exes. So I think one of the reasons why this story or this movie works so well is that it has constant time limited events that occur that are forcing things to happen. So we never get in this kind of slow dirge of what's going to happen next. Another one of my favorites, Coraline. This is just a great movie with ticking time bombs, as we know, because it's use of the portal. And that's this story and also movie. It's, as you guys know, it's also a book, but I'm just talking about the movie here. But there's ways that the ticking time bomb can be used to physically, and this where she's using it's the moving to the new apartment with her family. She doesn't want to be there. She misses her friends. She wishes she was back where she was. And so there's that kind of unhappiness of that period of adjustment and wanting the family to leave. Then there's the ticking time bomb of finding the portal, and then all the mysteries and secrets that go along with that. And then wrapped into that is the ticking time bomb of the other mother's identity. At first she's just too good to be true. Everything about her is just what you could only ever hope as a child. And then as that facade begins to crumble away, the risk of harm to her actual parents keeps increasing. There's a lot of ticking time bombs even in the small scenes of this movie. When I watched it again, I was noticing the little dogs of her neighbors, where she sees when she goes to visit the former burlesque opera singers, and the stuffed dogs are up above, and she says, oh, one of the dogs is looking a little peaked, and she's working on his little halo or something for when he passes on to the next world. So it's like even the lifespan of the dog is used as a threat of a ticking time bomb. And of course, I liked the little mice in the other realm, where they were giving warnings to her neighbor about what's going on. And so there is a ticking time bomb too of like what mice are warning her of, oh, things are changing, things are coming, you can't trust her, things aren't as they seem. And then I just want to mention the cat, who's just a completely terrific character, and how his use of the ticking, how he's kind of used as the ticking time bomb theme, because he can flow between the worlds, and he's kind of outside of that problem. So he's kind of like a guardian or mentor in that way. But I think he's just a really interesting character, and there could be lots more said on him. But these are just some other ways that I want you to think about. Oh yeah, these are just all different ways of using ticking time bomb. So again, ticking time bomb, we're going to think about what is it, why do we care, and how can we use it? And the other thing to think about is what other tropes does it play well with? And we've talked about some of them here, where there's the various tropes about like a MacGuffin and warrior, and what would be another one that we could just throw off the top of the head? Oh, obviously quest. So those are just always things to kind of keep in mind of how they work together and different ways you can use them. questions, track me down. I would love to talk to you guys more about it. If you have any questions, anything I can make more clear, you know how to get a hold of me. And please feel free to sign up for my newsletter. I got all kinds of tidbits in there about things coming up that's going and things that I'm working on. And I hope you enjoyed this video about ticking time bomb tropes, and I will talk to you guys soon. And thanks so much for supporting my Kickstarter.